Canada, the United Kingdom, and France are among the allies condemning Israel's strike in Qatar, after Israel says it targeted top Hamas officials in the country. Now, Hamas says the attack did not kill its senior leaders, but it did kill 5 of its members, including the son of its top negotiator. This strike is Israel's first known attack on Qatar, and it's the closest strike yet to 2 other key U.S. allies in the region, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Today, a Qatari spokesperson said the state of Qatar strongly condemns the cowardly Israeli attack, and that this criminal assault constitutes a blatant violation of all international laws and norms. Here at home, Prime Minister Mark Carney also called the strikes an intolerable expansion of violence and says they pose a grave risk of escalating conflict throughout the region. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, meanwhile, said the days when the heads of terror enjoyed immunity anywhere are over.
At the beginning of the war, I promised that Israel would reach those who perpetrated this horror. And today, Israel and I have kept that promise.
Joining me now, Jon Allen is a former Canadian ambassador to Israel. Randa Slim is a senior fellow with the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. And Arif Lalani is a former Canadian ambassador to Jordan, Iraq, Afghanistan, and the United Arab Emirates. It's good to see you all. Thanks for joining us on a significant day. Jon, I wonder if I could start with you. I mean, Qatar was the closest thing to neutral ground that Israel and Hamas had. So why would Israel carry out this strike at this place at this time?
Well, you heard the Prime Minister. He said he was going after Hamas for, amongst other things, the bombing in Jerusalem that took place a couple of days ago where 6 Israelis were killed. He's also, I think, signaling the end of negotiations and preparing for a ground invasion in Gaza City, which will destroy Gaza City and send about 1 million people out of it, if successful, to the south. And he did this not with a green light from the Americans, but certainly with an orange light. The Americans were aware of it. They advised the Qataris that it was happening. And then, of course, Donald Trump wants to play both sides of the game by saying he condemned it on the one hand, but maybe it was going to help the peace process and Hamas should be targeted, et cetera, et cetera. So no trust anymore for Trump, of course, and none for Prime Minister Netanyahu.
So, Randa, how likely is it that any form of peace talks, ceasefire talks, hostage release negotiations can continue after this strike happens?
I think we can say that the strike has achieved 2 things. One is bring an end to the negotiation process that was being mediated by Qatar. I mean, the Hamas leadership at the time of the attack was meeting to discuss a Trump proposal for ending this war and bring the hostages home. It means, unfortunately, maybe harm to the remaining live hostages, Israeli hostages. And the second thing I think it will achieve, and I think that was intentional by Israel, is to undermine the U.S.-Qatar relationship. Now, Trump is saying he did not know about this, and the Qatari Prime Minister just did a press conference in which he said they were informed of the attack 10 minutes after the attack, while the bombs were falling. And so it's no secret that this Israeli Prime Minister and Israel, as well as their supporters in Washington, D.C., have been for some time trying to demonize Qatar and its role in this conflict. And I think that was a second objective, is try as much as possible to wreck this relationship that this administration, in fact, has been trying to cultivate and has valued.
So Arif, by striking Qatar, Israel is also hitting directly sort of into the neighborhood of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, 2 other sort of U.S. allies in this. I mean, what are the consequences here of doing this, disrupting things and angering these countries?
I think the consequences are large. It's becoming harder and harder to distinguish how Israel treats its enemies and its friends. And the Gulf states, Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, they're really the only friends Israel has in the region. And they have risked quite a bit over the last 2 years to try to keep some prospects for a peaceful resolution alive, but they've also worked to defend Israel when it's been under attack by Iran. So I think there's a line that's crossed here. I think the challenge, as we've seen for 2 years, is I don't think the Netanyahu government respects any red lines at the moment.
So John, on that, I mean, you mentioned Trump's reaction a little bit earlier. We've seen Canada, France, the United Kingdom. They've all condemned this. The White House said today the strike does not advance Israeli or American goals. Trump posted similar things on his social media. So what do we make of this? Why does Netanyahu seem to be testing the U.S. patience, or is it melodrama from the White House?
You know, we had an administration under Joe Biden that basically sent bombs to Israel and then told them not to use them because there was a humanitarian disaster. Now you've got a president who seems unable to control a rogue Israeli prime minister, unable, unwanting to. Maybe he believes Netanyahu when he says this is going to be quick and dirty, which of course we know it's not going to be. It's impossible to understand. But what we do know is the prime minister has gone rogue, and he is going to do whatever he can as fast as he can, whether it be trying to annex the West Bank or trying to destroy all of the buildings in Gaza and shift all these people to the south. He seems to have Trump's number, and Trump does not seem to want to stop him in any way so far.
So, Randa, the U.S. has expressed discomfort, at minimum, displeasure with what happened today. Canada, France, the U.K., they've condemned the strike, and in some form or another, they are moving towards the official recognition of Palestinian statehood, much to the chagrin of the Israeli Prime Minister. But none of this seems to be influencing Israel's behavior. So why do you think pressure from the allies hasn't checked Benjamin Netanyahu's aggression here?
Because this pressure did not come with real cost on the Israeli leadership. It did not come with real cost, economic cost. It did not come with political cost. It did not come with, stopping arms trade or sending arms to Israel from many of these countries. And so symbolic recognition of Palestine is good, it's a good step, but it remains symbolic without accompanying that with actual cost and implication for the Israeli leadership for its rogue behavior. Israel will not stop. I mean, they have Trump's number. And the statement from the White House today is, half full, half empty glass. But it's not only Trump. We have not seen for a while now a US president who has been willing and able to go against Israeli leadership in a strong way. Politically, in this country, it's still very difficult. It's not doable. But, and I don't see this administration and this president are going to take any kind of steps in that direction.
Arif, where are things from a regional perspective now? Because since, the Hamas attacks on October 7th sort of precipitated the cycle we're in, with the fights with Hezbollah and with Houthis, Israel struck into Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Iran, and now Qatar. So what has all of this done to the stability of the region, do you think?
Well, it's clearly unstable. And I think if you just step back a little bit, I think the Arab countries are asking themselves two things. What does it mean to be Israel's friend? Because, the UAE, even Qatar, Saudi Arabia have been trying to support a process here and have been restrained in the comments they've been making, but it doesn't seem to matter. Second, what does it mean to be a very staunch ally of the United States? I mean, the Americans have their largest base, their central command in Doha, in Qatar. That's supposed to mean something, but they were just attacked by America's other closest ally. So I think people are reaching the end of the line here. And what really matters, as Randa has said, and I think she's 100% right, is there needs to be accountability for this Israeli government. Saying that you will recognize a Palestinian state actually has to mean something. So once you recognize a Palestinian state, you actually have to address the fact that that Palestinian state, in whatever form it is actually being attacked by another state. So how far are Canada and other countries willing to go to match their rhetoric. But I've got to tell you right now, I think the only people that can rein in Prime Minister Netanyahu are Israelis. They have to demonstrate that they disagree with what is being done in their name by their elected government.
You know, Jon, we're less than a month away from the next anniversary of the October 7th attacks, and hostages still remain held by Hamas, unreleased, despite persistent negotiations and demands. And the military operations continue in Gaza City, you know, with warnings for more people to flee somewhere as Israel gets ready to do more things in that strip. So what does this tell us about where Benjamin Netanyahu is and what conditions he wants before willing to consider an end to this war in Gaza?
Well, it clearly signals that the hostages are not his priority. I mean, we've known that for a long time. We've known that his priorities are political, to keep the war going so his coalition's maintained, so he doesn't face a commission of inquiry, so he doesn't face elections. But now we've seen a situation where the negotiations that hostage families were hoping and praying would allow the release of some or all of the hostages, we've now seen that ended by this strike. The Qataris have said that the negotiations are not over, but I can't imagine that Hamas, which was looking into the American proposal for a ceasefire, is now going to immediately begin negotiating again. And the strikes in Gaza are the utmost danger to the surviving hostages. The hostages have only been released through negotiations, not through military effect. And the families of the hostages, and I assure you, the hostages themselves, are afraid of these attacks because they're relatively indiscriminate. I mean, in the sense that you just can't know who's going to be killed when 50 high-rise buildings, according to the Israelis, have been destroyed in Gaza City.
Well, Rana, on the other side of that argument is that, you know, Hamas could release the hostages to end the barrage against the civilians inside Gaza, if the public postures of the two sides are to be believed here. But what does all of this tell us about the possibility of this ending anytime soon? Because it seems like we might be on the verge of yet another escalation, or at least a continuance of where things are.
There is no trust at all in the ability of the U.S. to deliver Israel to a deal, especially after this attack. And so the hostages remain the only card that Hamas has. And I think, they are going to continue to use them as much and as long as they can to be able to exact a deal that works for them. Nobody has been able to force the Israelis to surge humanitarian aid. The last deal by which the hostages were released were thanks to the intervention of Trump. This time, I don't know if anybody, including Hamas, believes that Trump can deliver Netanyahu.
Arif, that same question to you. I mean, what does this say to us about the possibility of this coming to some sort of a resolution?
I don't see any possibility. And frankly, I think after 2 years of a strategy which has resulted in 60,000 civilian deaths, has also resulted in the assassination and the killing of the most senior Hamas leaders, it's very clear that that strategy hasn't worked and will not work. So one has to ask the question, why pursue this strategy? And I think people need to ask the Israeli government, look, it's very clear from the statements of your government's ministers that you wish to annex Gaza and the West Bank. And I think there needs to be accountability and some questioning of what are the plans and what is the accountability for the protection of civilians? Because clearly the strategy of assassinating Hamas leaders does not have the outcome that Prime Minister Netanyahu is suggesting. So why would you continue?
We'll continue this conversation on another day, but I want to thank you all for being here on this day. Jon Allen, Randa Slim, Arif Lalani, thank you for being here.
Thanks,
Thank
David.
you.